26,325. So indeed at the open, for what it's worth, we did, make a fresh high. So the latest all-time high, 26,325.
Okay, so
we need to then, sustain there, go above it, and not slip.
So the open was at a new all-time high, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, and the Nifty Bank, of course, as well, 59.9, I think almost at 60,000 levels, right? 59,973 or so. The small cap index is not at a new high, or is it? And the mid cap index is up on your screen as well, about 0.25% higher. The small cap index was a little behind, but we'll see. The broader market, 1,400 up and about 500 lower. That's the advanced decline ratio, about a little over 2:1 in favor of advances. Nifty heat map will give you a quick sense of where we are starting. We'll pick it up from there. What do we have? Bulk of it should be in the green. It is. JSW Steel, Shriram Finance, Tata Motors Passenger Vehicle Business are on one end. ITC is on the other end. Maybe we should just start with the ITC stock. And in the pre-open, it was, I think, lower, but not by much at all.
It's down 1.5% now.
Yeah, 1.5% lower at this point. But let's get to individual names now. Surabhi.
So on ITC itself, I guess, as Mr. Mani just explained, that it doesn't change the final incidence of tax, but any expectation of a reduction or a simplification in the manner in which that tax is levied, that is taken away. And we need to watch out for the actual operational details of how this will be levied, because it is on manufacturing capacity, not necessarily how much you manufacture out of that capacity. So ITC is lower, but the rest of the market is positive. So let's look at the winners. And JSW Steel, about 1.5% higher. BEL, 1.2%. There is Tata Motors, which is up and about. Even Bajaj Auto came out with a very steady set of numbers, about 8-9% growth year-on-year on total sales. Stocks up about 0.7%. State Bank of India is contributing. Lever is contributing. 0.5% up. L&T is up. Reliance is up. So all the big batters, they are pitching in quite nicely. Kotak Mahindra Bank, about 0.4%. On the downside, really, there's not much to worry. It's only ITC, and that's about it. Some tail enders like Tata Consumer, but those stocks are not even down 0.5%, so not really worth counting. Looking good. The Nifty steady, just under the 26,300 mark, Nigel.
Well, on Friday morning, I had said one thing, that silver is making fresh all-time highs, if you recollect, at around when markets opened itself. So there's only one play, it's Hindustan Zinc. And the thing is that silver is very, very volatile, but you have a couple of central bank meetings, and the optimism is that we'll get a rate cut both in India as well as by the Fed. And the Fed one is the one that will, trigger base metal prices to move up as well as precious metals. Explains why Hindustan Zinc is up, and all the ETFs as well, Tata ETF, all the other ETFs as well, they have moved up. So that's one of the big movers. Hindustan Copper has seen more than a 10% correction from the recent peak, but copper prices have moved up. You'll argue about valuations, but the stock is up 1.5%. Sterling and Wilson, that's a big order win that they have out there, and that's why that stock is very good momentum in today's trading session. Tilak Nagar Industries, they have gone ahead and they've closed that long-awaited transaction with Imperial Blue. That hit the exchanges just a few minutes or so ago. And that's why that stock, in fact, is up close to around 2%, because now it moves them from a brandy to a whiskey player as well and gives them pan-India presence. Announced some time ago, the street was waiting for this to close out, and that's precisely what's happened. So net, a good start to trade. You have a lot of stocks that are moving up. The Nifty up 90 points, breadth of the market in favor of number of stocks advancing. And the Nifty Bank, it's on its way to 60,000 odd. What a move out there on the Nifty Bank, moving from strength to strength. And the metal index, that's the one as well that we highlighted earlier today. And that's the one that's, putting on some weight, up 0.7%.
Well, 90 points, right? So this is a good-looking screen overall. Market breadth is about 3:1 in favor of advances. 26,290 is where we are at. I mean, it'll be good to see these gains hold out for the rest of the session, but the start is certainly good. Silver Bs, right? So 5% higher, and it's actually Silver Bs are the number one volume traded ticker on my screen right now across on the NSE on Hindustan Zinc. M&M Finance is up about 3%. AG's, which is the newly listed business, the demerged entity, 5.5% higher on that one, 275. Tejas Networks, completely bombed out name, but is slowly starting to come back from the lows, right? So 470 odd was the low. Stocks at about 520 now. Sterling Solar Wilson about 4.5. I think there was an order on Friday or Thursday. 4%. Okay, I think there's an order today as well. So 4%. JM Financial is up about 4.5%. Natco Pharma is up 3.5%. K Fintech, I think we mentioned. And all of these silver ETFs are coming up. Tata has won, HDFC has won. So they're all up 4%, 5%, and of course the underlying silver rally that we're seeing. Poonawalla FinCorp is up as well at this point in time. Welspun Living had this massive move on Friday. Moved up from 130 to 150 on that Friday. It's coming back a little bit, 4.5. It's got volumes on it on the downside. 4.5% give back. Stocks back at about 142. Capillary is a recent listed name, 2.5% lower on Capillary. 63 Moons went up like a rocket to the moon. So, that NCLT case, the issues at NCLT, I guess, have been resolved. And, so from 700, it went up straight to about 940 in about 3 sessions. It's coming back, it's giving back some 2.5% lower. Whirlpool, of course, that block being sold, it's at a new low. Now, 1,038 on Whirlpool. Again, this one has got volumes in it. ITC, Godfrey Phillips, both are down about 1.5%. It's down almost 5% right now. Some of these names like Kiri Industries, again, right? Kiri had a big move last week and it's giving back about 5.5%. I can mention more names, but volumes are a little thin at this stage. Dheeraj Agarwal is with us, Managing Director, Ambit Investment Managers. Dheeraj, great to have you with us here on the program. Thanks very much. Are you in the camp which believes that, and mostly people are, especially on the sell side, that things are looking a lot more constructive as we look into 2026 and there's money to be made here?
I think things are looking constructive, yes. I am a little bit of the same camp at this point of time. Although I will add a little bit of caution there. I'm cautiously constructive. I don't see a huge up move. It will still be a stock pickers market. At the index level, we will see the markets grind up rather than explode up. So that's where I may differ a little bit from the rest of the market. But yeah, that's where I am.
Now, Dheeraj, I must actually compliment you because that caution was ahead of the curve. It was sort of well taken because you've been maintaining about, concerns like earnings, and valuations. So, yeah, kudos, that call has played out. But now that you are turning, from totally cautious to cautiously optimistic, tell us what's shifting. And let's start with the earnings trajectory itself. Having heard a lot of the corporate commentary at the end of Q2, I mean, at the macro level, look at those GDP numbers. They look fantastic, right? But we need to get sustained double-digit earnings growth. Do you see that happening this year onwards?
The real GDP growth reported this quarter, or September quarter, is 8.3%. But the nominal GDP growth for September quarter is actually slightly lower than the June quarter at about 8.5, right? The corporate earnings and corporate sales growth actually track nominal more than real. And there is a little bit of a hot debate going on at this point of time that some portion of our GDP under the new methodology is calculated as nominal and deflated by the deflator to arrive at the real. So maybe the low deflator is artificially inflating the real number at this point. So let's just focus on the corporate earnings growth. For September quarter, Nifty earnings growth is just 6 or 7%. BSE 500. X of OMCs is only 7% to 8% range, which is all very weak. So the reason for being cautiously constructive is the two big triggers that we have seen recently. One is the large GST cut. Second is the continuous decline in interest rates. Both these put together hopefully result in sustained consumption revival in the second half, and hopefully results in better earnings trajectory in the second half. The jury is still out. Some of our post-Diwali, which is not a very good sign. But there are reasons to be cautiously optimistic.
All right. Hi, Dheeraj. Good morning and good to see you. Ben, let's leave eternal to the side. Let's focus on the next one that I want to focus on, right? Let's look at it with the lens. I recall when the Lenskart IPO came out, you were a little bit more positively biased on it. And to be fair, the stock sold off 10% on listing day. And after that, there's been a lot of interest. We know there's a big market out there. Valuation debate continues, but otherwise the business appears to be shaping up well. What's your view on the name from here on? It's held up actually, though we have a fair bit of the float that's limited, at least as of now. Your view on this name?
So honestly, I don't have a very concrete view on Lenskart at this point, but if I take the discussion, valuation sensitive as compared to valuation agnostic for even high growth companies a little while ago. And you can, I mean, you started this discussion by quoting internal. You can see that pressure in internal stock price also in the last 1 or 2 months. And it's across the board. Many of the high growth companies where valuations were extraordinarily high are not able to move up anymore. And the primary reason for that is, when I spoke about earnings slowdown. So while there is earnings slowdown, there is no earnings crisis. This is a very important distinction to be made. Last time we saw earnings slowdown between 18 to 20, there was an earnings crisis as well. And hence, the few pockets where earnings growth was strong, valuations kept on rising. This time, the same thing will not happen. And that's why we need to be cautious on valuations too.
Yeah. Dheeraj, allow me a minute on this. And I just want to tell viewers as well. I think, this was 7th November. Ambit did come out with a sell call. And the 12-month price target on Lenskart now that Ambit has is 337, which is probably one of the most bearish targets on Lenskart. Remember, on the other end of the extreme, you have someone like Jefferies. Jefferies is calling for 500 on Lenskart. So, Dheeraj, this is not a stock call discussion at all, but I think this also highlights the kind of market we are in, which is why as investors, it's really important to understand what's going on. Lenskart reported numbers are fine. There's margin expansion, around 19% margin. EBITDA has gone up. Revenue's also gone up, a fair bit. But the market clearly, between your very cautious view now, Ambit's cautious view, and someone else who's calling 500, it's very, very polarized. Yeah. So it's an issue in the company, but you just don't know how to understand the valuation debate. And Lenskart is not the only one, right? We have a whole pipeline of new listings that's coming up ahead, from NSE to Meesho to whatnot. So this is important for viewers and investors to understand. Just help us through this.
Yeah, so we tend to be a little bit more purists when it comes to valuations. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So let's say during the 18 to 20 period, when a number of consumer companies were just continuously going up despite valuations, our analyst calls, at least on the stock price, appeared to be going wrong, because we took a purist view on valuations, and many of the stocks we had sell calls on. In the current environment, looks like the market has become a little bit more valuation sensitive, and exactly for the reason which I described, that you are able to find reasonably growing companies at much better valuations today in the market, and hence investors are not willing to pay exorbitant valuations for a similar growth or slightly higher growth.
So the Lenskart downgrade was a pure valuation call.
It is. It's a seller in the market, and simultaneously, otherwise stocks would just go up circuits or down circuits all the time, right?
No, absolutely take that point. Okay, so let's talk about what you are liking. I mean, you've liked financials in the past, but give us some more color. With the index at all-time highs, where should we train our lens, buying lens, that is, in terms of new ideas?
So it's a continuation of the thought which I just expressed. Across sectors, it's possible at this point of time to identify companies where the growth rates and the fundamental metrics look either similar or better, and then you focus on valuations, which is relatively cheaper. So we are back in that kind of an investing time zone. So you mentioned BFSI. Take BFSI as an example. So all large banks at this point of time, the credit growth is similar, 10-11%. Earnings growth is similar, 10-11%, a stock which is relatively cheaper. And which is exactly why names like SBI, Canara, some of the second line banks like Federal, CUBK have been performing significantly better than the frontliners like ICICI, Kotak and HDFC, because it's similar growth or better growth with slightly better valuations, right? So we're seeing that happen in IT. LTI with a better growth than TCS, Infosys, etc. has done better, and so on and so forth. So it's one has to slice and dice growth, some of the other fundamental metrics, obviously like ROC, free cash flow generation, and then compare the valuations. You can't just buy the best and the largest, unlike in 18 to 20 cycle, and hope to outperform.
Okay, all right, got that. Dheeraj, we'll leave it on that note for this morning. Thank you so much for joining in. Good to get the perspective on the market with you today. That's a view from Ambit coming in, and they're turning cautiously constructive on the market for this time. Let's just take a look at the screen before we move on to our next guest. It's still very steady, 88 to 90 points higher and just under 26,300. That's the story on the Nifty. It's been a good opening, you'd have to say. And lots of stocks are, of course, moving around on news or otherwise. Well, as promised, let's get to our next conversation then. And we have with us in the studios Mr. Sudeep Roy, Managing Director and CEO at L&T Finance. And we have three main points that we want to focus on with the company today. AI has become a big talking point for L&T Finance, and they alluded to this in some of their conversations with investors earlier, caused a bit of a flutter on the stock as well. So we'll understand more about this. And then, of course, we want to understand the usual metrics, the ROA, NIMs, all of the usual metrics in the outlook for H2, and an update on what's happening with asset quality as well. So let me straight away get to point number one with our guest, the AI, because what you, I think, mentioned to the street earlier was that now you're adopting AI in a manner that it improves your collections and your yields. I think that was really noticed. What exactly is happening? Is it beginning to make a meaningful difference? And then if you could give us some numbers, I mean, typically from wherever yields and collections are right now, how do you see those numbers improving? Over what period?
Thank you, Survi, and thank you for the opportunity. Obviously, we have been one of those institutions who have started to adopt what I call AI at scale. And if you look at our sort of 4 areas where we are piloting multiple solutions, first is obviously onboarding, underwriting, servicing, and last but not the least, collections. Now, the place where we started to deploy it very, very early was underwriting. And we look at AI at a 3-step process. Most people think when you talk about AI, think about Gen AI. But we look at machine learning, deep learning, and Gen AI obviously at the pinnacle of it. Most of our underwriting engine, for example, which is almost now 20 months into running and version 3, is deep learning based. And we deployed it for the first time in our two-wheeler business. We started with maybe about 14 models running. Now we have close to about 18 to 19 models running on that. And the fact is that if you look at the impact of that, and as you know, in the industry, two-wheeler industry, through the door bounce on underwriting, especially when portfolio bounce is anywhere, so I can say 9 months, our portfolio bounce is down to about below 15%. And our through the door bounce is now coming about 7 to 8%, which is almost equivalent to a prime personal loans bounce. What it does, and we actually also validated it through CIBIL. If our portfolio risk on our non-AI model underwritten portfolio was, say, at 90 plus at 12 month on books was 4.5%. My current portfolio, which is underwritten through Cyclops, which is our deep learning based underwriting model, is currently running at about 3.2 to 3.3. So almost 150 basis points has got shaved off. Right. So obviously it will take some time to show in the full book because I still have a back book which is there. But as we progress forward, the portfolio will clear. And we have implemented now in two-wheeler, SME, tractor loans.
This is at the underwriting level.
Yes,
So also the question of cost has to come in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to what extent has your software cost or technology cost gone up? And there's a cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what should your investors watch out for over the next 12 months as you apply this to the rest of the portfolio and to other areas like collections, like,
So very good question. We spent overall 80 crores to build this underwriting tool. And on our automated portfolio management tool, we have spent about 25 crores to do that, right? And obviously, as this builds across all lines of products, the cost will. But we amortize this cost because these are literally software products, right? So we amortize this cost over a period of time. And what is not normally visible is that you have a credit cost. But the cost of credit administration on top of the credit cost is almost equivalent to that of the credit cost.
Basically, to recover 100 rupees, you need to spend...
You need to spend 50, 60.
So that goes
actually
down
160 rupees. Yeah. So, for example, I'll give you the example of the two-wheeler business where we have the maximum experience. If your credit cost was, say, pre-cycle between 5 to 6%. Now, directionally, your credit cost can go down to close to 2%, your cost of credit administration becomes about 1.5%. So you actually save 200 basis points on that. Though you front load the cost in building the tool, you tend to sort of...
The tail is long in that sense. In terms of...
Plus also in AI in collections, an average physical call and human call, right? Okay, call conversion rates in human call, etc., are roughly about 67 to 68%. But average human call fully loaded cost can vary between 600 to 900 rupees, depending upon the length of the call. An average AI call for us is 38 rupees in terms of collection cost. And okay, success rates are
Exactly,
lower.
the conversion rate?
55% success rate. 55% success rate.
But even adjusted for that, I think it's
You are adjusted for that. And the fact is that
Fantastic
some of the new sort of models which are coming, right, you actually cannot make out the difference. In fact, the AI tool interrupts you in between, and that's almost human-like.
You know, we'll come back to AI. Just Mr. Roy, thanks for dropping by, first of all. And
so, you know...
are you completing 2 years, Mr. Roy?
A little more than 2 years.
A little more than 2 years.
A little more than 2 years.
So, okay, let's just... I want to start with microfinance. I'm sorry, I'm diving straight into some segments here. It's about 25% of your book?
Almost, 25-26% of our book.
Okay. Now, this was highlighted to us by an investor that while, and we spoke about this at the NBFC event, that things are turning. I mean, we are at perhaps the cusp of an upcycle in the microfinance space. Is that panning out? I just wanted to get a status check, because some of the data indicates otherwise, that things are still deteriorating. I mean, it's not moving up. The pace of change is actually deterioration, not improvement. So just wanted your sense.
See, I am in the business and I look at the numbers daily, right? And I'm sort of biased by the numbers that I see for my
that's what we want. I mean, what's your numbers?
My organization. So, at least L&T Finance, we are doing pretty well, right? And this, the fact is that our disbursements have been growing with every... The fact is that we have been above 2,000 crores of disbursements steady state for the last 3 to 4 months, right? Collection efficiency for us has been improving secularly month on month. And when I say secularly in a month on month, about 6 to 8 basis points upward stick every month, right? So, last month when we ended last month, we were at about 99.57.
This is all microfinance?
All microfinance.
Okay, please.
99.57 pan-India. Now, this month we are a little higher, right? So, and Karnataka, for example, which actually was sluggish for a long period of time, actually broke through about close to 99.4% this month, right? So, which is not exactly near normal. For us, near normal will be between 99.65 to 99.7. We're still 10 basis points as my organization away from normal, which is about 99.7. See, the industry again has been improving, and I've been talking about in the industry. So the industry has been improving, but the pace of improvement is not that fast to the extent that we would have liked. Plus, also the industry has a liquidity issue, right? So the fact is that there is a lending gap in the market, right? And some of the larger, stronger players are able to lend, and that is why MFIN has made a request to the government for having a refinance facility for the entire microfinance NBFC MFIs. We have to see whether the government agrees to that or not. And but the fact is that the industry, I would say, is out of the woods, if I might use the term, out of the woods. It is in that long tail normalization period. A little bit of liquidity will help, because what happens is liquidity also starts the cycle also. But couple of points. Rural wage growth rate has been good, 6 to 8%. Rainfall has been good, right? Kharif crop arrivals are good. So I expect H2 to be significantly better than what we saw in H1. And I think Q4 is when you will see normalcy in this industry, subject to liquidity coming back.
All right. Hi, Mr. Roy. Good to have you in the studio. And I recall the last time we chatted with regard to that Karnataka issue. You told us the efficiency will improve in October. You've been spot on. October, November is when things have been improving out there. And most of the guidance as well you have gone to. And that explains why from March itself, I think the stock is up 75%. That said, let's focus on a few numbers since, you were drifting us towards that. The return ratio, that's going to be important. You're guiding for better ROAs. You're guiding for a 40 basis points improvement. Tell us by when and the levers as well.
So we're currently, last quarter we were at about 2.41.
Yes.
So what we have guided the markets is directionally we should be in the range of between 2.8 to 3%. Exit FY27, which means around March of March 2027 is when we will be at that particular level. Correct. Right. So, and obviously a couple of things here obviously has to work. The credit cost has to come down. As you know, our credit cost was 2.4. Our ROA and credit cost actually were the same last quarter, 2.41 and 2.41. Right. So, obviously the credit cost has to come down, and the various initiatives that we have been doing is obviously showing a positive impact on the credit cost trajectory. The microfinance sort of industry also has to stabilize. The fact is that we got a burst of sort of NPA coming in from the Karnataka sort of challenges, right? And obviously, we delayed the recovery.
Right.
Now, I expect FY27 to be a period, every quarter will improve the trajectory on the credit cost, and we have said that the credit cost will directionally move towards 2%.
Right.
Because of the AI initiatives also. You said 2%.
Yeah, it will.
All of it put together.
It will take time to show up because we have a drag of a back book, right? So, for us, the situation is peculiar. We have a new, take time to sort of show up in numbers, and it will do so in Q1 and Q2 of next year, next financial year. And I'm very, very confident that, and it will also have an impact on the collections costs as well. Yeah. So on the cost, etc., cost efficiency, you will see an impact. NIMs and fees, we have guided that, NIM plus fees together, we will try to guide between a corridor of 10 to 10.5%. Okay. We'll try to maintain that. And with microfinance coming back, it's a high yield product. And plus also we have added gold loans. We are adding 200 branches this year. We'll add 300 to 350 branches next year. So basically for the next sort of 1.5 years, we'll be opening one gold loan branch every day.
All right. Right? Tell us a little bit more about that gold loan portfolio, because you have tapped that market just in the recent past. And I think the book as of now is around 1,300 crores.
1,500 crores.
1,500 crores. And as you're saying, you're looking at opening more branches.
Yes.
And you're looking at penetration out there. So going by all these estimates that are put down, what should the book look like, say by FY27 and from thereabout? Targets on the size of the book and timeline as well.
So we expect to be anywhere between 4,500 to 5,000 crores of book exit FY27. That's what we intend to do. And by that time, we should have... See, we got 130 branches. We'll be at 200 branches this year. So we'll be about 330 branches by March.
Mm-hmm. This is coming back. You're building the gold loan business as well. Retail has been anyway doing, fairly okay for you. In terms of just growth of the book overall, AUM growth, I think you've guided for 20 to 25% for this year, whether you're on track for that or not. And even next year, I mean, what is the steady state growth rate you're looking at now with microfinance issues largely perhaps behind us?
See, festive periods was good, right? And the fact is that, I'm reasonably confident that and microfinance is coming back, gold loan disbursements are good. Two-wheeler, we saw a very good month in October, though this month it has sort of stabilized to a large extent and come into a normal trajectory. I'm pretty confident that overall for this year, we should be at about the 20 to 25%, benchmark. Next year, again, we have to see, next year, again, if you see microfinance, I think this business, the safe speed for this business is between 10 to 15%, right? But, we will have a couple of high growth businesses. Personal loans has been growing at 40% plus for us. And if you look at our digital origination of personal loans, we probably continue to grow well. Microlab, small book is growing well. Gold loans will go strongly. SME business for us, small base, but it's been growing well. We saw a little bit of risk on the lower end, sub 20 lakhs, but that's not a very large part of our portfolio. So we continue to grow well on that as well. So overall, again, next year, overall, and as we sort of announce our Lakshya 31 targets, right, in the month of April of 2026, we will want to be within that corridor because the fact is the targets that we are taking, between 20 to 25% is a safe speed to grow any sort of retail lending business. And the fact is that in our Investor Day, we articulated there, we are a risk-first, tech-first, diversified financial player. So we will grow to the extent that we are comfortable with risk. Now, if that means that shaving a couple of basis points from the growth rate, so be it. But 20 to 25% is good enough.
And I think that'll be good enough for the market as well. If you're able to do that consistently, I think the key word is safe speed.
That's right.
Safe speed. You don't want roller coasters.
And just quick, last 10 seconds, allow me to add this. The Japanese are lining up with money. People from the West Asia are lining up with money. When it comes to Indian BFSI, there are deals galore. Some of your larger NBFC peers, there's still a lot of buzz that they could be looking at.
You've warmed him up. He knows what's coming.
You know what's coming. And you have equity partnership?
Not really right now because you see, we had a equity partnership with Bain for a long period of time. They exited, and after that, I think we are well capitalized. Our parent obviously has got deep pockets to attend to any of our capital needs. So as of now, I think our focus is on execution, execution, and execution.
All right. Thank you very much for dropping by, sir. Really appreciate it. And thank you for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. Great chat. 80 points, by the way, on the Nifty. We're at about 26,280. It's looking solid at this point in time. We'll take a quick commercial break here. we'll stay with the financial services business, but talk about a very different kind of financial services business, exchange business. So the country's dominant exchange, NSE, National Stock Exchange, on the other side for a chat on, of course, timelines to a potential IPO. Sriram Krishnan is going to be with us, and of course, individual segments, how they're holding up, etc. Stay tuned. Coming up. Okay, welcome back. We've got the market, which of course is at a new high, 26,295 as we speak. So, great occasion to actually speak with, the dominant exchange in the country. National Stock Exchange is, with us. And we're going to talk about numbers, segments, and of course, when we will see the NSE IPO. Sriram Krishnan is Chief Business Development Officer at NSE. Sriram, great to have you with us here. We talk about Nifty all the time, morning till afternoon. So good to speak with the exchange behind it. And I'm assuming it's been busy with the one thing which you would acknowledge is a great deal of interest to everyone is timelines to a IPO from NSE itself. So talk to us a little bit about the background. Where is it? Where it is at? Have things moved? And just that'll help.
For NSE, I think more than our own IPO, it's the existential objective to help other people raise capital. I think we've done that so effectively in calendar year 2024, where 268 companies got listed on NSE, raising about $20 billion. This year is no different. The fund mobilization seems to be quite aggressive. And already we've seen more than 1.1 trillion raised in equity and about 12.5 trillion raised in bonds. And this year looks very, very exciting as well, with many, many large IPOs lined up in the next weeks and months. As far as NSE's IPO is concerned, that's dependent upon the regulatory.
Sriram, have things moved with the SEBI settlement fees for the co-location case, right? What's the provision behind it? What's the timeline? 1,300 crores provision was made. Some sense will help.
The information available in the public domain is all that I can refer to, but there's nothing more as such that I'll be able to say on this one.
Sriram, if I could just ask, so are there any other approvals from any other agency that are pending? Or all the requisite approvals for the IPO, are they already in place?
Normally, for a company to go public, the regulatory clearances are important. We are waiting for that.
And these are clearances from SEBI or any other? I'm just trying to understand from a regulatory perspective where things stand.
The industry regulator has to approve first, and then SEBI has to approve. In our case, SEBI is both the industry regulator and the capital markets regulator. So that's what we are waiting for.
All right. Hi, Mr. Krishnan. Good morning and good to see you, Ben. Let's talk about business then. How's the market share holding up? The erstwhile smaller player, BSE, is making a bit of a push in the options side of things. What's the updated market share, both in the cash as well as in the F&O market, if you could help us out with the recent numbers?
Sure. Now, in the cash market, our market share continues to be about 93-94%. With almost all the large marquee deals happening on NSE, it's been a bit, busy actually. So cash is doing well. As far as equity options are concerned, if you look at August 2025, our market share was 76.9%. And I'm picking August 2025 because effective September 1st, 2025, we changed our expiry day for index options from Thursday to Tuesday. But if you see since then, if you look at November 2025, for example, our market share in equity options has gone up about 10% to 87%. So I think the market participants have accepted well to the change of expiry day from Thursday to Tuesday. And Tuesday seems to be working well for us. Particularly if you look at each of the days as well, I think we are gaining market share significantly. And that's a good direction to get into. If you look at the other segments as well, electricity futures, for example, which we launched in July 2025, our market share is consistently anywhere between 75 and 80%. And electricity futures is a great example of how NSE makes products actually work for the value chain participants.
All right. So just to clear the air, you're saying that the equity options out there, the change in the weekly expiry has actually made a difference with your share going from 75% to 87%, if I got that number correct.
Absolutely. 76.9 to 87. Yeah.
87%.
76.9 in August, 87% in November.
Okay, got it. If you could also help us out with any kind of communication from the regulator, because there was that fear that the weekly expiry will be pushed back. There'll be some kind of regulations that will come about. Have you all heard anything, or do you all have a few months now where at least we continue to see the weekly expiry? Just wanted an update on that front.
Articulating that if at all any changes were going to be made, that would be based on a consultation paper and due process, etc. So we have not seen any consultation paper yet. And I think whatever happens will happen after due consultation.
Have things, Sriram, have things moved at all? Have they asked you for more data? We've been reporting and over the last many months that maybe it's not going to be that hammer blow which many were expecting. The SEBI chairperson at our event, as you said, at the Global Leadership Summit, on stage said, well, and on other occasions as well, that we've done a lot in terms of what needed to be done, and we will continue to evaluate as we go forward. Is that the right kind of interpretation from your perspective? That
I think so. On the contrary, many brokers have in fact gone and represented to SEBI, requesting that Bank Nifty be allowed on Thursday, because that used to be the biggest product in the whole world within the umbrella of equity derivative contracts. And I think the market participants have been missing Bank Nifty for a while now. And, as an additional weekly expiry, if that's permitted, let's say on Thursdays, I think that will really help the market. And, hopefully, SEBI can permit one more weekly expiry per exchange. And that can, in fact, make things even more better for the market participants. If you see the broking revenues they've gone through in the last couple of years, I think it's time to recoup and recharge a bit.
So brokers have made representations. You have as well?
No, we are here to deliver what the market wants. We know that the Broking Industry Association had made a representation, and that's why I referred to that.
So on this, any indication? I don't know if you have heard anything from the regulator. Is there a timeline? Are they reviewing these proposals over how many weeks, or is it months? May they come out with some sort of a view? Any indication on Bank Nifty specifically?
So we are not aware of any specific developments or indications as such after the representation was made. But we know that the broking industry wants one additional weekly expiry per exchange and a possible Bank Nifty to be allowed on Thursday.
So there is a possibility that a second product will be allowed, but it won't. I'm guessing if at all the regulator is looking at it, it won't be limited to just one exchange. Then it'll be available to all exchanges to allow a second product. You believe that can happen?
This is the representation made by the Broking Association. We don't know if the regulator will approve it or not.
Sriram, there are other exchanges looking to raise sort of launch products, etc. as well. NCDX, for example, they've raised 2 rounds of money. There's one more, the Metropolitan Exchange. I mean, just how do you see all of it, and any perspective you can share there?
No, I think it's an interesting development, and the other exchanges obviously have a big task ahead of them. They have to obviously do well in the cash equities first to be able to succeed eventually in equity derivatives. I think that was the regulatory thought process as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out with their strategies and try to win market share in this space. India is a growing country, and there's enough space for more exchanges to grow and thrive. And we are very keen to welcome all of them.
Just last question, Sriram. As you look ahead into 26 and beyond, what product innovations, any particular segment which you will focus on to build out as the next growth driver? What should we expect?
So a couple of things that I will highlight here. This is a very important question. And, in the last couple of years, a number of market participants have been asking us to build more racks in co-location because most of the players today are technology oriented and want to be present in our co-location. So we have actually moved employees out of the NSE building and are slowly turning it into a full data center. And we've now turned rack surplus. So anybody who wants a rack can immediately get it on demand. So that's one. Secondly, we have approval from the capital markets regulator to launch a few contracts, a couple of contracts, particularly the 10-gram gold futures contract and the Indian natural gas contract. So the natural gas contract based on Indian prices. So these two are approved and ready to go live. So we will announce the launch of these products very soon. Apart from that, we have also applied for the launch of the Brent crude oil contract, which will hopefully get approved soon. We also await approvals for launching corporate bond futures and government bond futures. Hopefully, these two are interesting and exciting products, given that the specialized investment fund framework has also been launched recently by SEBI and has gone live from many asset managers domestically. So there are a few products that are coming in, and we can also look for some exciting participation from retail customers in particular.
Okay, all right. So lots lined up, and I think that's what your shareholders would like to hear as well. Thanks very much, Sriram, and always great speaking with you. I hope we do this more often. Thanks very much for coming on CNBC-TV18. Good luck. All right, well, 70 points, markets, there, roundabouts there. 26,277 is the index value at this point. Siddharth Rai is with us of Stockbox Technology. Siddharth, good morning. Great to have you with us here. Just a quick look at the price action, and what would you recommend for viewers?
45 minutes or so on the index just seemed to be an extension of the momentum which we started building, started building up in the index in last week. We just discussed it on Friday that no matter how many dips or consolidations we see in Nifty from here, as long as the index is above 26,200, 26,100, these two important levels, we must be staying bullish on the index. My view remains quite the same even now. Now that we're also trying to touch 26,300 again and again, Nifty seems to be very well positioned to be moving towards 26,500 and 26,600 just in the next couple of days. So this is a very good time to be staying bullish on the index.
Okay, so time to be bullish on the index. Siddharth, what about stocks?
Yeah, sure. So we I see two stocks. Both of these we have to buy. The first one is Uno Minda. The stock has been on a weekly basis. The stock has been making higher highs for the past 2-3 weeks. So the momentum looks very good, and the stock seems very nicely placed for an up move, good up move from here. So Uno Minda can be bought right now. The spot is trading around 1334-ish. You can buy it here. The stop loss will be at 1310, and the targets being the first target 1375 and the second target 1395. The second stock is from the two-wheeler space. The name is TVS Motors. See, the whole two-wheeler space has been buzzing for the past couple of months now, and TVS Motors now, I think it will be one of the outperformers in this space. As today it has made an almost made an open low. It started running just from the point where it opened. So TVS Motor looks very good right now. It can be bought. The spot is trading around 3620, somewhere around that. We can buy it here. The stop loss will be at 3590, and the targets be.
All right. Thanks a lot, Sid, for joining in and giving us those calls. For the time being, we slip into a short break. On the other side, Manisha is waiting for us. She'll tell us what's going on in the commodity markets. Stay with us.
Are having a steady morning. Most of the gains are intact, 70 odd points up on the Nifty. Let's find out what's happening in commodities. And it's all sparkles, as Manisha was telling us, in these precious metals. Silver has indeed turned into gold. Should I say that, Manisha?
Yeah. And I want to say your markets may be steady, but look at precious metals and absolutely making all-time highs onto that one. I want to start with silver, really, because we're looking at an all-time high onto this one. It's trading at record highs. 57.80 is what we've done. If we can show the latest prices, we'll know what we're trading at right now. But the Chinese inventories have dropped to a decade lows, and that clearly seems to be supportive. If you look at the Chinese silver exports, they surged to an all-time high for the month of October to the tune of 660 tons there. And also, US has added silver and copper in its critical mineral list, and that also has given it that re-rating where you're looking at silver running up, and that is exactly what we are looking at in sense of copper as well. So while the US copper prices are trading at a 4-month high, you have the LME London copper prices trading at an all-time highs above $11,200 a ton there. I mean, we've seen very, very strong gains coming for copper most part of this year. This is on the back of planned production cuts that we are seeing coming in from Chinese smelters. There are a series of mine disruptions that we have seen come in from major producers in Chile and Peru as well. And then apart from that, the fatal incident that we saw in Indonesia's Freeport-McMoran's Grasberg mine, the reports there indicate that the full resumption of all of this trade perhaps would happen only by 2027. And then you have recurring protests happening in Chile and Peru. And then Codelco has offered record high prices to Chinese buyers as well. So they're trying to sell more to US and less to China. And is the reason you've seen that disparity come in the international markets. But then again, it's not just about silver and copper. Take a look at palladium and platinum as well. It has to do with thin London inventories that has led to these two PGM metals trading on the positive side as well. It also has to do with uncertainty surrounding US trade policy that has led to safe haven buying allocations for 2026 as well. The expectation is that the precious metals, base metals, minor metals perhaps could be looking at more money rotating there. The mining is concentrated in South Africa and Russia, and we have seen concerns there is another reason that you have seen the prices go up. And then when you talk about the demand prospects, well, whether it has to come in from EV, data centers, renewable energy, you are going to need many of these metals, and that would continue to keep it in good favor. Take a look at the prices now, and that really is a sparkle. Silver is gained up by 98% in this year until times, almost doubling from where we started in this year. It's been a 90+% gains in case of platinum as well. Palladium and gold almost equal with 60 to 68% of gains coming in there. And then take a look at the other metals also, because we're looking at copper gaining by 32%. It's a 30% gain coming in for tin, which is trading. Going forward from here is going to be that 87% of a probability of a 25 basis point rate cut. That meeting is happening on 10th and 11th of December. But ahead of that, it also is going to be about the US manufacturing and payroll numbers that are expected in this week. That is going to move all those markets as well.
Okay. All right, Manisha, got it. Thank you so much for that. So silver indeed shining bright. That's the big commodity headline this morning. We'll take a quick break on that note, but coming up on the other side, Lata will be speaking with the CNBC-TV18 Citizens Monetary Policy Committee on what to expect from the RBI on the 5th of December.
Welcome to the CNBC-TV18 Citizens Monetary Policy discussions. The upcoming RBI policy has become a deeply divided debate after the second quarter GDP growth came in at a strong 8.2%. Yes, the governor said Reserve Bank has space to support MPC members, Soumya Kanti Ghosh of SBI, Samiran Chakrabarti of Citi, Sonal Verma of Nomura, JP Morgan's Sajid Chinoy, and our chairman, Dr. Pranab Sen, the former chief statistician of the country. Gentlemen and Sonal, thank you very much indeed for your time. Actually, let me start with the lady. Sonal, 8 for a rate cut. Will that pull back the MPC's hand?
Yeah, Lata, I mean, clearly it's a tight decision this time around. I think taken at face value, the 8.2 and for FY26, where we are now tracking closer to 7.5, does not suggest there is a need. I think we need to sort of dig a bit deeper, though, and a more nuanced analysis in terms of to what extent do we take these 8+ readings on GDP at face value? What is the role of low deflators in actually accelerating the real growth? Do we think that the output gap in India has turned positive based on the broader swath of economic data, including the credit gap, current account gap, momentum in core inflation, etc.? And I think the forward-looking view as well, I mean, as the deflator is going to drop even further into the negative territory in Q3, and that will again hold up real GDP in the next quarter. So we'll be having the same debate 2 months later. And therefore, I think, the forward outlook in terms of do we think steady state growth has stabilized in the 7.5 to 8% range? If not, if growth is going to revert back to 6.5 at face value, yes, there isn't a need. But I think we need a deeper analysis and discussion on the nominal growth slowdown and whether we think output gap has turned positive. Our view is it is not positive, and the deflators are exaggerating the real increase.
Okay. Sajid Chinoy, if you have joined us, a similar question to you, actually. Is there not increasing conviction, at least for the last 3 or 4 quarters, GDP is coming higher than market estimates. So maybe we are in a higher potential growth. Or do you think this is a one-off blip because of the low WPI and we will revert back to 6% and growth needs help?
Well, Lata, good morning. I'm not even sure we need to go into those assessments when deciding what the RBI should do. What is the RBI's mandate? The primary mandate here is to keep it, but it's very clear that the primary mandate is on inflation. And, 10 years into an inflation targeting framework, it's very important from a credibility perspective to implement the mandate symmetrically. If overall headline inflation was tracking 6%, which is the upper end of the RBI's corridor, most analysts would say the RBI needs to hike rates here. This year, overall inflation, even if before the GST cuts kicked in, was running at about 2.2 or 2.3%. If you look at underlying inflation, which is to look at core inflation, correctly adjusted for gold prices and fuel prices, that's been running at less than 3% for a year. So if your primary mandate is to keep inflation close to 4, inflation is currently at 2%, underlying inflation is running at 3%, suggesting that there is still slack in the economy, point to cut rates to maintain the primacy of your mandate. Judgments about, output gap are harder to make, but if underlying core inflation is running at 3%, that still tells you there's slack in the economy. And so the RBI needs to be supportive of that at this point in time. So I think taking a more puritanical view of the inflation targeting framework, which I think is the right thing to do at this point in time, avoids, some of the questions that Sonal raised.
Okay. No, I agree. But, the RBI has not been all that symmetrical. During COVID times, even when inflation was above 6%, they did not hike with good reason. So, I mean, there have been exceptions to the rule, but we will leave that to the official MPC. Let me get to Soumya. Soumya, the RBI also looks at forward inflation. And that, given the low base, may be close to 4% or even higher. So do you think we can run a...
No, I think we are living in a world of uncertainty, and a new uncertainty is the strong GDP growth, which has now become a certainty. So my sense is that I think let's dissect it into the following points. The first thing to note is that I think inflation, forward guidance of inflation in a situation when there is significant uncertainty is always very difficult to give. I think we started the year, the central bank started the year with an inflation forecast of 4% in April. It went down to 3.7, 3.1, and now there is a 2.6. Now there is every possibility that the final inflation number could be closer to 2%. Next year, we have started with 4.9. We are now at 4.5, but with the new CPI base and given the current inflationary trends, I think I will not be surprised if it runs decisively below 4% also for the next year when the MPR report is published in April. So having said all this, I think so the 1 year forward guidance at this point of time, looking into it and making, even though that's actually the mandate of an inflation targeting central bank, is very difficult to make.
Okay.
So my sense is that while I agree with the point that inflation is going to undershoot significantly, GDP is so high from the GVA, that was because of indirect tax collection. This year we are having a debate that whether the GDP is high because of deflator. Whichever way we can argue, we need to understand that the GDP growth has continued to be strong. We can also look into the arguments in terms of a glass half full. For example, the nominal GDP growth rate could have been higher and the GDP growth would have been lower, but that's not been the case. So we need to take a sacrosanct view. Yes, inflation will significantly undershot, but at the same point of time, in a world of uncertainty, you have to keep the gunpowder in your arsenal over a longer period of time, and there is no harm if the rate cut cycle or
साथियों, आप भी मौसम का मजा लीजिए। साथियों, ये शीतकालीन सत्र ये सिर्फ कोई रिचुअल नहीं है। राष्ट्र को प्रगति की ओर तेज गति से ले जाने के जो प्रयास चल रहे हैं, उसमें ऊर्जा भरने का काम ये शीतकालीन सत्र भी करेगा, ऐसा मेरा पूरा विश्वास है। भारत ने लोकतंत्र को जिया है, समय समय पर ऐसे प्रकट किया है कि लोकतंत्र के प्रति विश्वास और मजबूत होता रहता है। गत दिनों बिहार में जो चुनाव हुए, उसमें भी मतदान के जो विक्रम हुआ है, वो लोकतंत्र की सबसे बड़ी ताकत है। माताओं बहनों की जो भागीदारी बढ़ रही है, ये अपने आप में एक नई आशा, नया विश्वास पैदा करती है। एक तरफ लोकतंत्र की मजबूती और इस लोकतांत्रिक व्यवस्थाओं के भीतर अर्थतंत्र की मजबूती, इसको भी दुनिया बहुत बारीकी से देख रही है। भारत ने सिद्ध कर दिया है, डेमोक्रेसी कैन डिलीवर। जिस गति से आज भारत की विकसित भारत के लक्ष्य की ओर जाने में ये हमें नया विश्वास तो जगाती है, नई ताकत भी देती है। साथियों, ये सत्र संसद देश के लिए क्या सोच रही है, संसद देश के लिए क्या करना चाहती है, संसद देश के लिए क्या करना चाहती है, संसद देश के लिए क्या करने वाली है। विपक्ष भी अपना दायित्व निभाएं, चर्चा में ऐसे मुद्दे उठाएं, मजबूत मुद्दे उठाएं, पराजय के निराशा में से बाहर निकल करके आए। और दुर्भाग्य है कि पराजय भी नहीं पचा पाते। और मैं सोच रहा था बिहार के नतीजे इतना समय हो गया है तो अब थोड़ा संभल गए होंगे, लेकिन कल जो मैं बयानबाजी सुन रहा हूं उनकी, तो उसे लगता है कि पराजय ने उनको परेशान करके रखा है। लेकिन मेरा सभी दलों से आग्रह है कि शीतकालीन सत्र में पराजय की बौखलाहट का वो मैदान नहीं बनना चाहिए और ये शीतकालीन सत्र विजय के अहंकार में भी परिवर्तित नहीं होना चाहिए। बहुत ही संतुलित तरीके से जिम्मेवारी के साथ जनप्रतिनिधि के रूप में देश की जनता का हमसे जो हमें दायित्व दिया है और हमसे जो अपेक्षाएं हैं उसको संभालते हुए हम आगे के लिए सोचें, जो है उसको कैसे अच्छा कर सकें, अगर बुरा होता है तो उसमें सटीक टिप्पणी कैसे कर सकें ताकि देश के नागरिकों का भी ज्ञानवर्धन हो। ये मेहनत का काम जरूर है लेकिन देश के लिए करना चाहिए और मैं आशा करता हूं, मेरी एक सबसे बड़ी चिंता रही है पिछले कई लंबे समय से, सदन में जो पहली बार चुन करके आए हैं या जो छोटी आयु के हैं, वैसे सभी दलों के सभी सांसद बहुत परेशान हैं, बहुत दुखी हैं। उन्हें अपने सामर्थ्य का परिचय कराने का अवसर नहीं मिल रहा है, अपने क्षेत्र की समस्याओं की बात बताने का अवसर नहीं दिया जा रहा है, राष्ट्र के विकास की यात्रा में भागीदार बनने के लिए वो अपनी कुछ बात बताना चाहते हैं, उस पर भी रोक लगा दी जा रही है। कोई भी दल हो, हमें किसी को भी हमारी ये नई पीढ़ी के आ रहे नौजवान सांसद, पहली बार आए हुए सांसद, उनको अवसर देना चाहिए, उनके अनुभवों का हमें सदन को लाभ मिलना चाहिए। इस नई पीढ़ी के अनुभव सदन के माध्यम से राष्ट्र को भी लाभान्वित करेंगे और इसलिए मेरा आग्रह रहेगा कि हम इन चीजों को गंभीरता से लें। ड्रामा करने के लिए जगह बहुत होती है, जिसको करना है करते रहें। यहां ड्रामा नहीं, डिलीवरी होनी चाहिए। नारे के लिए भी जितने नारे बुलवाने हैं, वो पूरा देश खाली पड़ा है। जहां पराजित होकर के आए वहां बोल चुके हो, जहां अभी पराजय के लिए जाने वाले हो वहां भी बोल दीजिए, लेकिन यहां तो नारे नहीं, नीति पर बल देना चाहिए और वो आपकी नीयत होनी चाहिए। साथियों, हो सकता है राजनीति में नेगेटिविटी कुछ काम आती होगी, लेकिन अल्टीमेटली नेशन बिल्डिंग के लिए कुछ सकारात्मक सोच भी होनी चाहिए। नेगेटिविटी को जरा अपनी मर्यादाओं में रख करके नेशन बिल्डिंग की तरफ ध्यान दे, ये मेरी अपेक्षा रहेगी। साथियों, ये शीतकालीन सत्र एक और कारण से भी महत्वपूर्ण है। हमारे नए माननीय सभापति जी आज से हमारे उच्च सदन का मार्गदर्शन उनका शुरू हो रहा है। मैं उनको शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। साथियों, जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स एक नेक्स्ट जनरेशन रिफॉर्म्स के लिए देशवासियों के मन में एक श्रद्धा का वातावरण पैदा किया है। इस सत्र में भी उस दिशा में बहुत सारे काम होने वाले हैं। हमारे देश का एक हमारे मीडिया के मित्र कभी अगर एनालिसिस करेंगे तो उनको ध्यान में आएगा